The morning the glass tower felt like a cage was the morning everything finally cracked. Rain streaked down the windows of the top floor, blurring the city into a gray wash, and the woman who owned the view stood perfectly still, hands trembling around a mug she had forgotten to drink from. Power had never scared her. Markets, mergers, hostile takeovers, she had mastered them all. But the silence behind her, the soft, aching quiet of 3 children who never spoke, pressed against her chest harder than any boardroom battle ever could. She was a CEO who could bend corporations to her will, yet she could not make her own triplets laugh. She could not make them speak. She could not even hear them cry. And in that unbearable stillness, she realized success had never prepared her for this kind of loneliness. If this opening already stirred something in you, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that change lives when we least expect them. Her name had become a headline long before it became a burden. By 38, she had built an empire from grit and sleepless nights, turning a small startup into a multinational force. The world saw her as untouchable, polished, and ruthless when necessary. What they did not see were the nights she spent pacing a dark penthouse, watching 3 small figures sleep in perfect stillness, their chests rising and falling like fragile promises she was terrified of breaking. The triplets had been born early, tiny and quiet, and the doctor's careful words had later hardened into a reality she could not negotiate away. They were deaf. Not broken, not lost, but living in a world that moved differently, a world she did not know how to enter. She hired the best therapists, the most expensive specialists, filled their days with structured routines and her nights with guilt. Still, the silence remained, thick and unyielding. Nannies came and went like seasons. Some were overwhelmed by the pressure of caring for 3 children at once. Others were intimidated by the cold precision of the household, the schedules pinned to walls, the unspoken expectation of perfection. A few tried too hard, smiling constantly, clapping, exaggerating expressions, turning love into performance. None of it worked. The children stayed withdrawn, communicating only with each other in small private gestures that felt like locked doors to their mother. She watched from the edges, heart aching, wondering if they sensed her fear, if they felt her love at all. Each resignation felt like another failure stamped onto her already crowded soul. The ad she finally approved was blunt and desperate beneath its professional tone. She needed a nanny, experienced, patient, someone who understood silence better than words. She did not expect much anymore, only stability, only someone who would stay. When the final interview of the week appeared on her schedule, she barely glanced at the details. A single father, recently widowed, with experience caring for deaf children. The words registered but did not stir hope. Hope had become a dangerous habit she could no longer afford. He arrived without fanfare, wearing worn shoes and carrying a quiet humility that did not beg for approval. His background was unremarkable on paper. No elite certifications, no glossy recommendations from prestigious agencies. What he carried instead was something harder to define, a calm that settled the room without demanding attention. The children watched him from behind the couch, their identical eyes sharp and curious. He did not rush them. He did not reach out or try to impress. He simply sat on the floor, hands resting loosely, posture open, as if waiting for the world to speak first. What happened next shifted the air itself. His hands began to move, not exaggerated or forced, but fluid, gentle, alive. Sign language flowed from him like a second heartbeat, expressive and playful, shaping stories in the air. The triplets froze, then leaned forward. Their bodies responded before their minds could catch up. And then, something miraculous unfolded. Their faces lit up, real laughter, silent but unmistakable, rippled through them. Their shoulders shook, their eyes sparkled, and they rushed toward him without fear. It was the first time she had seen them react like that to anyone outside themselves. She stood there, frozen, the mug slipping from her numb fingers and shattering on the floor without her noticing. The soundless laughter of her children hit her harder than any noise ever could. Tears blurred her vision as she realized this man was not performing kindness. He was fluent in it. He was not trying to fix her children. He was meeting them exactly where they were, speaking their language as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Hiring him felt less like a decision and more like surrender. In the days that followed, the house began to change in subtle, profound ways. The children woke earlier, eager, their small hands already moving with excitement. They followed him through the house, learning through games, stories, and shared moments that turned silence into connection. He taught them not just signs but confidence, showing them that their voices existed in movement, in expression, in presence. The rigid schedules softened. Laughter, once rare and fragile, became a daily guest. She watched from a distance at first, unsure how to step into this new rhythm. Guilt whispered that she had waited too long, that someone else had unlocked a door she had been too afraid to knock on. Yet he never made her feel small. He included her gently, teaching her signs without judgment, encouraging her attempts with patient smiles. Slowly, awkwardly, she began to communicate with her children in ways she never had before. Their eyes met hers more often. Their hugs lingered longer. Behind his steady presence was a quiet grief of his own. He had lost his wife to illness years earlier, learning sign language alongside her as they raised their own deaf child, who had since grown and moved away. Caring for others had become his way of surviving the emptiness, of keeping love alive through service. He understood loss not as an ending, but as a transformation. And in that understanding, he brought a depth to the household that money could never buy. Challenges did not vanish overnight. The CEO still battled her instincts to control, to schedule away uncertainty. There were days when work pulled her back into old patterns, late nights and missed moments. There were days when the children withdrew again, overwhelmed by growth and change. But now, there was someone who stayed. Someone who believed patience was not passive, but powerful. Someone who reminded her, through example, that leadership at home required vulnerability, not authority. Seasons passed, and the house filled with memories that did not need sound to be loud. Birthdays marked by hand-signed songs. Bedtime routines filled with shared stories shaped in the air. The triplets began school, walking into classrooms with confidence, their mother watching with a pride that nearly brought her to her knees. She realized she was no longer just providing for them. She was finally present. The bond between employer and nanny evolved into something deeper, built on mutual respect and shared healing. They spoke often without words, understanding each other through glances and gestures shaped by long days and honest effort. The walls she had built around her heart began to crumble, not because she forced them down, but because she no longer needed them. Near the end of one quiet evening, as the city lights flickered on below and the children slept peacefully, she reflected on how close she had come to missing all of this, how fear had almost convinced her that love was something she could outsource. She understood now that asking for help had not been weakness. It had been the bravest decision she had ever made. If this story is touching something deep inside you right now, if it reminds you of your own struggles, your own moments of silent hope, please take a moment to like, share, and engage with this video. Your support helps stories like this reach hearts that need them. Just before the ending, here is a special request from us to you. Please comment below and tell us what part of this story moved you the most, or share a moment when kindness changed your life in a quiet but powerful way. In the end, the CEO learned that success was not measured by quarterly reports or towering buildings, but by the warmth of 3 small hands signing love back to her in the soft glow of a living room that finally felt like home. The single father found a place where his compassion mattered, where his past pain became a bridge instead of a wound. And 3 silent children grew up knowing they were never broken, never alone, and never unheard. The world outside still rushed and roared, but inside that once empty tower, a different kind of language ruled. One made of patience, grace, and the unshakable belief that even in silence, love always finds a way.